Welcome to British Focus, the channel where we break down the most controversial and thought-provoking issues shaping the UK today. If you haven't already, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and join our ever-growing community. We bring you the facts, the analysis, and the hard-hitting discussions you won't hear anywhere else. Today, we dive into a shocking case that has sparked outrage across Britain. 3 Muslim men, living in the UK, have openly criticised British society, expressing their frustration with the freedoms enjoyed by women and the country's refusal to conform to Sharia law. Their statements have left many furious, as they not only highlight a sense of entitlement but also show a blatant disregard for the values of personal liberty and equality that define British life. Instead of integrating, they appear to demand that the UK adapts to their beliefs, ignoring the rights of women to live as they choose. Is this just another case of cultural misunderstanding, or does it point to a deeper issue within our society? Let's take a closer look.
If your wife is coming out in front of people, showing herself, embarrassing herself, being all hysterical and laughing and all of this in front of people that are just, maybe they're laughing at her, maybe some people are perverted, they're just lusted by her or something like that, they're in love with her or something like that.
Actually, know a guy who, one hijabi YouTuber, he actually masturbated over her.
Yeah,
it's disgusting. I'm saying, know that your wives are putting themselves out like that in that way, and you got guys that are perving over them.
Imran gets these emails, I can't deal with those kind of emails, that's nasty, man. Imran gets them kind of stuff. How do you deal with that, man? But honestly, look, if you as a husband, you know that this is happening, and you let them, it's going to be a bit harsh, and you let your wife do that, and the Prophet ﷺ said that the youth will not enter into Jannah. I say, if you're not the youth, I don't know what the youth is, honestly. If this person not the youth, then what? And the youth is a person who doesn't have any jealousy to their female relatives. Yeah. If this person's not the youth,
he lets his wife go out how she dress, lets man look at her.
And the punishment for that is that they won't enter the Jannah, nor will they even smell the smell of Jannah. And the Prophet ﷺ said in a hadith which you mentioned before, in the hadith of Sahih Bukhari, of Sa'ad bin Mu'adh, right? Sa'ad bin Mu'adh, that he said that Sa'ad bin Mu'adh, when he said that if I saw someone with my wife, I would kill him. The Prophet ﷺ laughed. They're not saying that you're allowed to kill him, but he laughed. They're saying, تعجبون من غيرة سعد. You're shocked about you're amazed about the غيرة, the jealousy, protective jealousy of Sa'ad. And in praising this type of jealousy, he said, فوالله لأنا أغير من سعد. I have more غيرة, this protective jealousy than Sa'ad. So it's a praise, because the Prophet ﷺ had it. And he said, والله لله أغير مني. Allah has more غيرة than me. So it's a praiseworthy attribute.
It doesn't mean you can kill someone.
It doesn't mean you can kill someone.
But the point is that feeling of like, what, this guy's like, he's watching my wife.
It's a praiseworthy thing. You know, in some countries, just speaking about someone else's sister, it's something that, wow, they're just speaking about it, like saying, how's your sister? That's something you can't do.
Yeah, it's like in my culture, I'm not gonna lie, yeah. Like, it's a bit weird, and people are like, oh, how's your wife? Like, bro, and the guy never seen my wife. Mm-hmm. We might never see your wife, but just, he's being nice.
After watching this video, it is impossible not to feel a sense of disbelief and frustration at the statements made by these men regarding British women and society. Their words reflect a deeply concerning mindset that is at odds with the core values of the United Kingdom. Values built on freedom, equality, and respect for individual rights. At the heart of this controversy lies an outdated and regressive view of women, one that completely disregards the progress made over decades in ensuring gender equality and personal freedoms. The idea that women should be controlled, monitored, and judged based on religious or cultural standards that are not recognized under British law is not only offensive but also incompatible with the democratic principles that define this nation. The problem with their mentality. The belief that a woman's behavior, appearance, or presence in public should be dictated by male approval is a relic of an oppressive past. In the UK, women have fought long and hard to gain independence, the right to work, vote, and be treated as equals. Yet, according to these men, British women are failing to adhere to Sharia law, which they appear to believe should take precedence over the very legal framework of the country they reside in. Even more alarming is the notion that men should feel a sense of shame or embarrassment if their wives are seen or spoken about in public. In British society, relationships are based on trust, mutual respect, and individual autonomy. The idea that men should have ownership over their wives or female relatives, to the point of restricting their social interactions or monitoring their attire, is not only outdated but fundamentally incompatible with British values. Furthermore, The claim that men who do not control their wives' behavior will be denied entry into paradise is an extreme interpretation of religious teachings that many Muslims do not agree with. Such radical viewpoints promote an unhealthy and authoritarian approach to relationships, where women are stripped of their agency and reduced to mere extensions of their husbands' reputations. Freedom versus imposition. What stands out most in this discussion is the blatant disregard for the freedom of others. These men have made a choice to live in the UK, a nation that has granted them safety, stability, and opportunities that they might not have had elsewhere. However, instead of appreciating these freedoms, they express resentment towards the society that has welcomed them, demanding that it bends to their rigid beliefs. If these men feel so strongly that British culture does not align with their expectations, then one must question why they remain in the country. The UK is not governed by religious laws, and it never will be. Those who choose to live here must respect the fundamental values that make it a free and democratic nation. This does not mean that people cannot practice their religion or follow their traditions. It simply means that they cannot impose them on others. British society thrives on diversity and tolerance, but that tolerance must go both ways. While individuals have every right to follow their religious beliefs, they do not have the right to demand that others conform to them. This is where the conflict arises. When a group openly expresses the desire to see British women behave according to their religious principles, they are overstepping the line between personal belief and societal imposition. The public response and the larger issue. Unsurprisingly, the reaction from the public has been one of outrage. People from all walks of life, including those from Muslim communities, have condemned these statements as misogynistic, extremist, and incompatible with the British way of life. Women, in particular, have spoken out against this attempt to control and dictate their behavior under the guise of religious morality. This incident is just one example of a larger issue, an ongoing tension between those who embrace British values and those who refuse to do so. Integration into a new society requires a willingness to adapt and respect its customs, not an expectation that the country will change to suit one's personal or religious views. There is also a concern that such rhetoric fuels division and resentment. The UK has worked hard to build a society that respects different cultures and backgrounds, but when individuals express a refusal to integrate or show hostility towards the country's core principles, it inevitably creates friction. People expect newcomers to respect and embrace the freedoms that make Britain what it is today. The reality of British society. One of the most hypocritical aspects of this controversy is that the UK is one of the most tolerant and inclusive countries in the world. People of all backgrounds are free to practice their faith, express their views, and live according to their personal beliefs, as long as they do not infringe upon the rights of others. However, what these men are demanding is not equality, but special treatment. They are not simply asking for the right to follow their religion in peace. They are suggesting that British women should be judged and restricted based on religious laws that do not apply in the UK. This is where the fundamental conflict arises. British women are not required to dress or behave according to Sharia law. They are not expected to adhere to cultural norms that belong to a completely different legal and social framework. The expectation that they should do so is not only unrealistic but deeply disrespectful to the principles of freedom and autonomy that define modern British society. What needs to happen? This situation highlights the importance of standing firm in defending British values. There should be no hesitation in calling out beliefs that are harmful, oppressive, or incompatible with democracy and human rights. Stronger enforcement of British values. While freedom of speech allows individuals to express their views, those who openly reject the fundamental principles of the nation they live in should be held accountable. Promoting ideas that seek to limit the freedoms of others, especially women, should not be tolerated. Encouraging proper integration. Newcomers to the UK should be encouraged to understand and respect British culture, rather than attempting to impose their own. This does not mean abandoning one's religion or beliefs, but it does mean accepting that the UK operates under its own laws and principles. Rejecting extremist interpretations. The vast majority of Muslims in the UK do not share these extreme views. It is important to distinguish between religious faith and the radical ideologies that promote oppression and division. More voices from within the Muslim community should speak out against such views to prevent misrepresentation. Supporting women's rights. Women in the UK must never be made to feel that they are doing something wrong by exercising their freedoms. They have the right to dress how they wish, work where they wish, and live as they choose, without fear of judgment or restriction from religious extremists. The outrage sparked by this incident is entirely justified. The UK is a free country, and it must remain so. While everyone is entitled to their beliefs, those beliefs must never infringe upon the rights of others. Women in Britain do not need permission to live their lives as they see fit, nor should they ever be subjected to the outdated and oppressive expectations of a minority. It is crucial that as a society, we stand against any attempts to undermine the values that have made Britain a beacon of freedom and equality. These men's comments serve as a reminder that respect and integration are fundamental. If someone cannot accept the core principles of a nation, then perhaps they need to reconsider whether it is the right place for them.